Hello guys, I hope you're doing great. I myself am doing great. Okay, in the last video I discussed about this channel and why I decided to create this particular channel, right? And I promise that in the next video I'm going to share with you guys how I acquired these skills. So without further ado, let us get started. Okay, in the year 2022, that's when I developed a passion for technology. Why? Because I was at the University of Zimbabwe and I was doing archaeology and heritage management as a degree. And we were introduced to a certain course which was called, if I still remember, ICT in archaeology, whereby we learned more about how best can we utilize technology in archaeology. So we learned about databases, we learned about GPS, we learned about GIS, we learned about other softwares that are useful when it comes to the field of archaeology. So because of that, I was so interested and I was so curious about information communication technology and how best we can use it in the field of archaeology. So because of that, I continued developing the passion for technology and I continued learning, researching up until I acquired a certain knowledge that I was able to utilize it even when I was writing my dissertation. So it was so useful, and the knowledge I acquired during those days was very useful up until I completed my degree at the University of Zimbabwe. So that's how I attained the passion for technology. Then, when I graduated, I continued pursuing a career in technology. I continued learning and learning and learning and learning. So, before I was so passionate about writing, passionate about sharing my ideas. So, I wanted to have my ideas published and I wanted my beliefs to be seen or to be read by people outside there globally. So the solution was to create a blog website, right? Then I researched on the internet. I stumbled upon a certain application, a sort of content management system that was good when it comes to blogging. So I had to just log in and become the user and start writing articles. I published about two articles on that blog website and I was so happy. But now the challenge I faced was there was little customization when it comes to writing my articles, personalizing that blog website because it wasn't mine, it was developed by somebody else, right? But it was handy when it comes to publishing different articles, right? Or whatever you want to write about. So, because of that problem, right, I wanted to have full customization. So, I was researching how best can I create my own or my personal blog website. Then I was researching on the internet. Then I stumbled upon web development, right? And I was introduced to languages or computer languages that are used to create blog websites or websites themselves. I was introduced to HTML. I was introduced to CSS. I was introduced to JavaScript. So HTML is a computer language which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Is a computer language that is responsible for the structure of a website, right? If you visit a website, the structure you see right where the buttons, the navigation bars, the images, the text, that is structure you see. HTML is responsible for creating that structure for you when you're creating a website, even a mobile application. Then from there, we move on to CSS, which is cascading style sheet. It stands for cascading style sheet, right? If you visit a certain website, you see the colors on the web or the text that is bold and the styles of the buttons or even the navigation bar. That styling is done using a computer language called CSS. cascading style sheet. Then we move on to JavaScript, which is a functional programming language, and it's a computer language that is used now to add functionality to a website. For example, if you visit a website, if you click, maybe you want to change the dark mode to the light mode, maybe your eyes are not working properly when the website is in the light mode, then you click the dark mode. That functionality can be done using JavaScript. Perhaps you click the button, then you see the pop-up that comes out. Maybe it's a form to fill out or whatever is happening on the website. That functionality, that interactivity is done by JavaScript as a programming language. So I was introduced to these computer languages and I was so happy, and I had to learn so much in order for me to be able to create my own blog website. So I delved deeper and I learned those languages. And to make matters worse, I had no tech background. And you see, I did archaeology and heritage management at the University of Zimbabwe. So it means I have arts background. So it was so difficult for me to learn or to master those computer languages, right? But I tried my best to learn as much as possible, right? Sometimes I could give up. Sometimes I could have the energy to learn and learn and learn. Look for resources online. Looking for books, and other resources that were useful for me. Then, before I learned these languages I stumbled upon, I was introduced to Python programming language by my nephew, and she was doing youth informatics and analytics at the University of Zimbabwe. And you know, these people, they deal with information a lot. So because of that, now she was introduced to Python programming, and one day I just saw her busy and asked, "Yeah, what are you doing? It seems you're so busy." Then she said to me she was creating a beautiful game using Python. So when we were growing up, we played games so much, and we loved the game so much as children. And I didn't know how these games are created, right? So I was shocked. She was creating a game. So I asked, can you show me what kind of game are you creating? So she was creating a very popular game in programming, which is called Rock Paper Scissors game, and it was so interesting. She was creating it with Python, so I was so curious, and my energy towards programming increased. Then I asked her to teach me how to create a game, right? And she taught me. She introduced me to Python. She gave me the resources to learn, right? And she helped me to install Python integrated development environment, IDE. I still remember it was PyCharm, if I'm not mistaken. I installed that software the very day. Then I started to research, to look for materials, to learn. Then I had my brother who did computer science, right? I approached him and told him that I wanted to pursue a career in technology and I'm learning programming. Then he introduced me to a certain website called W3 Schools. It's a very, very good website when it comes to programming. It has a lot of information if you want to pursue a career in programming or web development. So there are a lot of languages that have been uploaded there, and the information is so useful and easy to understand. I learned the basics of Python, and it was so good for me. But now the challenge I face is that I could not even create anything. I was unable to create anything. I managed to create a game, that rock paper scissors game, yeah, myself, but it wasn't enough. But I wanted to create something meaningful, something good, something useful, right? Something that can be used by other people. So that was the challenge. Then I quit, right? I gave up. I never touch code again. And I think I spent about 6 months without touching any code, any software that has to do with programming, because I was bored, because I thought maybe I'm wasting time, I'm not learning anything, I'm not mastering anything. Then I decided to leave it. Then as time goes by, I returned back. When I returned back now, I then delved deeper into the languages I talked about, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I learned those and I was so happy. Why? Because those languages are very easier and they give you the output as quickly as possible as compared to Python. Right. Then I learned web development. I learned how to create websites using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I will share the links of those websites I developed in the early days, right? Then after that, I continued learning and continued learning and continued learning. Then I wanted to be a full stack web developer. So those languages I mentioned, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, are front end, right? Programming languages or computer languages, right? Because they are responsible for the styling of the website, the structure, and the functionality or the interactivity of an application or a website, right? So they are called the front end. So the front end, when it comes to web development, is that which you see if you visit a certain website, that which you see the buttons, the text, the nav bar, whatever you see, the models, that is the front end. Then the back end refers to something that powers your website. For example, it's an e-commerce website, right? If you click a product, the product is then added to the cart, then it calculates the amount you have to pay. And if you submit you and put your maybe your card details, then the money is processed, right? So that functionality, that logic is done in the backend, right, of a web application or a software, right? So that's the backend. So I decided, no, I want to become a full stack web developer. I just want to be independent and I just want to create a software or an application from scratch, the front end and the back end. Then so because of that reason, I then decided to learn the backend, then the first language, and I still love that language. I learned PHP, right? And it's a great programming language when it comes to backend of different systems. And I learned PHP. Then it was also good because I learned logic, how to do what is called CRUD operation, how to delete items, how to interact with the database, how to delete, update, and how to create or to store information in the database. I learned MySQL, and I was learning, and I was able to create few applications, and I was so happy. And I continued learning. Then when you're learning in the world of programming, you we have what you call repetitive tasks, right? So because of that, uh, there is a solution to every problem when it comes to programming. So developers now developed some frameworks or libraries that we can use to solve these problems, like repetitive tasks. Instead of me repeating myself, I have to use a framework or a library. Then in the front end, I learned React, and it was so difficult for me because I didn't master the basics of JavaScript. But I learned it and I created different websites. Then after that, then for CSS, it was so boring because you can write long lines of code, right? So to solve that, right, there is a library called Bootstrap. I learned Bootstrap, right, in order for me to just minimize the lines of code when it comes to CSS. I learned Bootstrap, that is the front end, right, frameworks, right. Then for the backend, then I moved on to Laravel, which is a very great framework, and I use it today, and I love it so much. It simplifies everything. I just have to build something great, then they handle the rest for us. So Laravel is very great. I learned Laravel, and I was able to create complex applications, and I was able to create um, big applications with little lines of code, but uh, complex logic, right? So I learned Laravel, and I am still learning it. Then, since the React was so difficult for me, then I researched and looking for something good and something that is compatible or that works greatly with Laravel. Then I was introduced to Vue.js. It's a JavaScript programming language. I learned it because I wanted to merge that with Laravel. So I built my front end. Then I connect my front end with the back end. So I learned Vue.js, and using Inertia, I was able to connect the front end and the back end using Inertia. So these are the languages I learned and how I acquired these languages, and I managed to develop some applications, right? And the links are below in the description. You can go through those websites I developed and the applications I developed using these languages. So I was trying to apply the skills I've learned, and so far I can say, yeah, I can solve any problem using these tools. So these programming languages or these computer languages are the tools that we can use as developers to solve real world problems, right? So after that, now that's how I ventured into web development. That's how I ventured into um, the world of programming. And I never created that blog website I wanted, but that idea helped me to venture into more technical skills when it comes to the world of programming, right? Then after that, I had the idea that I don't want to hire someone to do things for me. I need to do my things, right? Then I decided um, what other skills I can acquire in order for me to be independent and do my stuff. Then when I was researching, I was introduced to digital marketing. Then I learned digital marketing, search engine optimization, content creation, how to analyze Facebook analytics, how to market products using Facebook, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, and other social media platforms, and how to use them, how to upload, what is needed. Then I learned that, right? Then after I learned digital marketing, then I moved on to graphics design because I wanted content to post on my social media platforms. Then I learned graphics designing and how to design flyers, how to design company profiles, and how to design posters. Then I learned Adobe Illustrator. I learned Adobe XD. I learned Photoshop to edit the photos, Adobe Photoshop. Then I learned Adobe Illustrator. I mentioned that. I learned Adobe XD, and I learned which other software. I learned Canva, which is so good and it's so fast when you want to create your posters, your flyers, maybe logos, right? It can create that for you. Even company profiles, it creates that for you. But for company profiles, I use Adobe InDesign. It's very good for me to create company profiles, right? For logos, I use Adobe Illustrator, even Canva. It depends on the complexity of the logo itself. Then after that, then after I learned graphics designing, then I moved on to learning video editing. I edit my videos using Clipchamp software, and I use Lumen 5, which is an AI video creation or video creator software, which is so easy. It depends on the video you want to create, but it has very good customization, right? You can customize the video if you want, but much of the customization comes with a payment. You have to subscribe so that you could be able to be to customize that video, right, easily, and add more functionality or add more features to your video. So you have to subscribe. But for me, now it's good, and what I want, I just need little features, and it provides that for me, which is great, right? So this is basically how I learned the web development, how I learned digital marketing, and how I learned graphics designing, how I learned video editing, right? Then I continued learning. Then I said to myself, okay, technology, it has to do with computers, so I have to understand a computer itself, how it works, right? How it functions, the components of a computer. Then I delved deeper. I researched. I read different books, and I listened to different audios, and I watched different videos on YouTube about computers, right? That's how I become computer literate, even though at school we learned Microsoft, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Access for databases. But I wanted to consolidate these skills. Then I continued learning these skills, strengthening my skills. Then I learned about a computer, what is it, how it works, the components of a computer, what is an operating system, what is an application system, all those things, right? I learned those. So this actually shows my passion for technology, and I continue learning, and I'm still learning. I cannot say I'm a guru or I'm a professor of technology, but I'm still learning. But for now, the skills I've acquired, they were so useful, and they are still useful in my life, at work. So basically, that's how I acquired these particular skills. So in the next video, I'm going to share with you guys how I used these skills in my life and at work. Right. So thank you so much. I hope this is going to inspire you to learn. And I discovered that nothing is impossible. Even though you have arts background, you can learn and master technology and become good at it and use these skills at work. You can use these skills in your life. So nothing is impossible. You can do it. I just want to encourage you guys not to never give up and continue learning. And I'm going to teach you everything, and the knowledge I have is going to be useful in your life wherever you are. I'm going to teach you all these skills I've mentioned, all these skills I've been discussing with you, and it's very easier. You just have to be patient, you just have to learn, you just have to put effort, and everything will be fine. So thank you so much. Have a good day.